following a fatal stabbing in Croydon. 27-year-old Michael Patrick Afonso Peixoto died after being attacked by a group of men in Thornton Heath on the 19th of December. A 22-year-old remains in custody and an investigation is ongoing. The Met Police are appealing for anyone with information to come forward. 4 people have been arrested on suspicion of murder after a man was stabbed in East London today. The Met Police say officers were called to reports of a stabbing in Hackney early this morning. A 49-year-old man was found with stab wounds and later died from his injuries. 2 men aged 49 and 42 and 2 women aged 35 and 44 have all been arrested and remain in police custody. Unsolved shoplifting cases across England and Wales have soared to a 5-year high. Over 200,000 cases went unsolved in the past year in what's being described by the Lib Dems as a growing crime epidemic. Home Office data shows that number of shoplifting cases were closed without a suspect being identified. An average of over 560 go unsolved every day. And finally, Queen Camilla hosted afternoon tea today at Windsor Castle for a girl with a brain tumour. The little girl, who spent most of her life on chemotherapy, sang a Christmas song and gave the Queen a handmade ring. Olivia Taylor has a brain tumour which has left her blind, but she leapt up to say hello, Your Majesty, as she met Queen Camilla. The 7-year-old also tried her very first cup of tea, which was poured by the Queen. This is GB News across the UK on TV, in your car, on your digital radio and on your smart speaker by saying play GB News. Now time for headlines.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at the day after Boxing Day's newspapers. We review the news with 3 top comedians. I'm Stephen Allen. I'm here with 2 people who were available to work on Boxing Day. Josh Howie, and seeing as Lewis Schaefer's been now fired, we're joined by Nicholas DeSanto. Can you imagine the kind of person who's available to work on Boxing?
I've just been drinking at home. I got a call 2 minutes ago. And they sent me around the cab, and I just arrived here.
Your evil twin did the show earlier.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The difficulty with an evil twin, normally they're the one with a beard, but you got a beard.
Did they have hair?
No.
Okay, then they're not truly evil.
No, fair enough. But good Christmases so far?
Yeah.
I've been working every second.
I have 2 little kids and a mortgage, so it's good to be here.
Hey, there we go.
Fair play. Right, let's move on to the front pages. The Daily Mail goes with dozens of under-5s referred to NHS gender service. The Guardian's front page goes with ex-GCHQ chief warns ministers over government by WhatsApp. The Times says Tories to woo first-time buyers. The Telegraph goes with number 10 plans to end IHT ahead of election. The Express says end scandal of rip-off hospital parking charges. And finally, the Daily Star, battered Britain, 5 New Year storms. Those are your front pages. All right, let's start with the front page of the Daily Mail, Josh.
Yes, dozens of under-5s referred to NHS gender clinic. Now, this is 3 and 4-year-olds. There were 70 3 and 4-year-olds. This is over a few years. We got the Cass report coming out soon. Hilary Cass looking into this, the whole NHS response to gender people, specifically children, the Tavistock. And this seems somewhat mental to me that a 3-year-old would be referred to a clinic here, because 3-year-olds, their sense of gender or sex or whatever you want to call it, is not fixed, and it doesn't mean anything, is the point.
And also, it's true to say their sense of anything.
Exactly.
They are stupid. That is the point.
We're obsessed with dinosaurs or unicorns, at best dinosaurs, at worst unicorns.
Absolutely. And my son, he loved, put on a dress. He's now 6. For a while now, he was in the same bedroom as my daughter, and so he would I want to dress like her, and we go, yeah, cool, mate, here you go. He put on a little dress and do the stuff that she did because he wanted to be like her. It wasn't because she was a girl or because he felt like a woman inside or anything like that. It's just he was just mimicking what he saw around him.
It's like the moment a poor boy touches a doll or a girl touches a police car, those progressive parents, okay, let's rush into the Tavistock clinic.
And that's what they did here. And 70 parents of 3-year and 4-year-olds obviously were influenced by what they saw around them and now the question, and I've seen these videos from America where you see these, they're just mental parents. And for them, you could see it's like a lifestyle choice for them. And I would argue, they pushed these children down this path, and then it becomes medicalization. And the tragedy is when you see these confused kids and they become teenagers and they're medicalized for life, they are infertile, they are unable to have any kind of healthy sexual life, and it's a tragedy. And I think that it absolutely comes from parents and being groomed by those parents.
You know, internet wisdom says a transgender child, especially this young, is like a vegetarian cat. You know who calls the shots. It's never the actual cat or the actual child who made that decision.
So have you got a vegetarian cat? I'm confused about this analogy.
No, because the cat wouldn't...
Let's move on to the front page of The Guardian, see what they're going with, Nicholas.
Okay, so, well, in the middle of the page, we have this beautiful picture of a folkloristic performance in Dorset on Boxing Day. But
no, that's what they normally dress like, actually.
That's the village people.
That's normal. That's a normal day in Dorset.
Ah, okay, so my bad for not being sufficiently acquainted with,
that's a Tuesday.
With Dorset costumes and customs. But the picture is sandwiched by two very somber headlines. We have Israel in war on 7 fronts, says Minister. This is about the Gaza war, which is Israel, yes, so have I. And the Israeli Defense Forces have warned that this is going to only intensify. But on top of that, the main headline is ex-GCHQ chief warns ministers over government by WhatsApp. So this has been a big issue, of course. We've followed the COVID inquiry, and this is a staple of our time when ministers at all rates, at all ranks, they communicate through WhatsApp. And the risk is, of course, transparency. They can pull a Hillary Clinton at any time, if you like, and just say messages.
Is a better reference, isn't it? Losing your phone in the North Sea. That was a great way to go.
That was a classic. It happens to the best of us.
Well, if it happens to Rebecca Vardy, that's one thing. But if you're in charge of the government, you should. If you don't know how to back up a phone, you should lose your job. There's a certain level of competence.
It could be that they had some photos of body parts. That's what I use WhatsApp for, guys. Hey.
Fair enough.
But there are two things. Well, first of all, it's interesting because the whole article is based on a former head of GCHQ who's now doing other stuff, and he's kind of using this crowbar into his now career. But the two things are, yes, it is an excellent tool in some ways because it makes it easy. It means that you can have access to somebody a lot. You can have these group chats. So they are used in a lot of work environments now because it makes life easier than calling around 5 people or sorting out a Zoom meeting or whatever. So that's the one part of it. If they had maybe an alternative that was like some sort of government WhatsApp, and then that information was held. And if they and the other part of it is don't they know that this stuff is going to come out? That's what's maddening. It's like I can't believe they were typing this stuff away and just think, oh yeah, no one's ever going to get to see this. This is going to be lost to history and not be held accountable at all. That's what does my head in about this.
Yeah, the curse of screenshot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's how I've got both of you. I've got both of you on the ringer for those.
Ringer's an awkward phrase.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Let's go to the Times now.
That's what I've got you in my phone as, actually. Steve's ringer.
Ringtone is different. It's meant to be a sound, not a colour. What's the front page of the Times?
Yeah, so good story. Well, Putin's ship is wrecked by a 2.5 million UK missile. You could argue that is arguably the best value that the British taxpayers have had for a long time now. Actually, that 2.5 million, I know this sounds like a lot of money, but really, if that defeats arguably one of our... Are they an enemy? We're not allowed to say that they're an enemy, but whatever.
They didn't get a Christmas card from
by proxy. Yeah. And of course, warships cost billions. So well done there. But he says not using any doorknobs. In any cathedral towns soon. The big story, though, Tories to woo first-time buyers. And this is the Tories' pathetic attempt to try and get younger voters who have just the situation for them buying a place just gets worse and worse and worse. I got very lucky. My grandmother let me and my wife live with her at the time. That's what allowed us to save up the necessary deposit. But for younger people now, it does seem somewhat hopeless. So they've got some stuff here. They're talking about mortgage rates fixed for decades that the government would underwrite, which is what they do in America. So the deposit can be less. That makes a lot of sense. Why has that not been happening now? We have the Help to Buy scheme coming back. Why did it go away? And we have stamp duty reform, which is obviously something that's necessary because it arguably stops people from moving because they don't want to pay the tax, and it sort of clogs up the
That's
market.
higher up the chain, isn't it? Yeah,
It is higher up the chain, but it has an impact lower down. So all of these are great. Why are they doing it potentially 3 months before an election?
Well, I mean, Nicholas, to that point, isn't this only a Band-Aid? The solution in the problem in the housing market will be made worse by these in the long term. More people will owe more money and it'll push the house prices up.
That's one argument, especially against Help to Buy. I mean, I got my first home thanks to Help to Buy, but...
your parents?
Pardon?
Your parents?
No, helped by Her Majesty's government at that time. Yeah, but my father had Iranian rial, so not very powerful, but once converted into sterling. But the point is that Help to Buy allows people who have some savings, and you can say it's fair because they have managed to scrape up some savings to get on that ladder, while the prices are also pushed up because developers also know that, okay, we have these customers aided by the government, so they push up the prices, and it creates even more inflation in the prices. And then the other issue, the elephant in the room is immigration, because enough houses need to be built, right? We are not building enough houses, and they're going to be snapped up, and there's going to be a competition with immigrants. And we know that in the southeast, again, the housing market is a global commodity. We are competing against rich people from Hong Kong or Russia or anywhere. So on all levels of the market, we are competing, whether it's the entry level or is it the higher level, and of course there's going to be a ripple effect. So when London is a big hub, is a big investment to buy a property here, that means there's a ripple effect even on houses which are not maybe snapped up by billionaires
to be fair,
overseas.
the government is making a lot of effort to make the country so rubbish that no one wants to actually live there. So that will hopefully bring house
Let's give them
down.
that, yeah.
Well, let's keep you away from these shores anyway. The most important story, the Daily Star, proud to love animals, as it says on its front page. What are they leading with, Nicholas?
Battered Britain. 5 New Year storms in 9 days have been predicted for Britain. Of course, that is the downside of being right next to the Atlantic. And in the picture, I like the picture of the typical inadequate British umbrella, which is always reversed.
Don't you just... How dare you diss our umbrella?
The kind of umbrellas
coming over here, dissing our umbrellas.
Of all products, this country should lead the market in making good umbrellas.
Actually, yeah, we've not invested. It's been outsourced to foreign companies.
Exactly.
They've stolen our umbrella technology. China.
Josh, any hot take on 5 storms?
Well, just it's a shame. The one part of Christmas that was somewhat lacking was any kind of white Christmas, and it was the hottest Christmas, I think, for 100 years. So some bad weather would have maybe got people more into the Christmas spirit. So it's a shame that it's going to be for New Year's.
They're all windy storms, not snowy storms.
I know, but you'll take something. You can complain about the weather is the point.
Yes, that's true. That's the front page is done, if not dusted, and on the way. Kanye has upset the Jewish community, and Sadiq Khan has upset the Dutch. Find out which is worse. On the way next.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you,
GB News.
Britain's news channel. Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock Monday to Thursday on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Stephen Allen, still here with Josh Howie and Nicholas DeSanto to the Telegraph, Josh. And some people don't like Sadiq Khan and they don't like Europeans, so they're going to struggle to pick a side on this one.
Oh, that's a tricky, isn't it? Yeah, blow for Khan as European drivers challenge the Ulez fine. So these are penalties, they're worth £6.5 million. Now, they are, these French drivers are basically coming together and saying, no, we're not going to pay these fines. Some of the reasons for doing so are legitimate. Some of them are them sort of testing the law. They got issued, they were issued in euros and they're meant to be issued in pounds. So there's like some technicality stuff. But then another one is a lot of them were sent at the same time. Now, if you get a bunch of fines at the same time, it's like they're arguing that didn't allow them to then change their behaviour, because sometimes maybe people's English reading wasn't brilliant, they couldn't read the new signs or whatever it is. So there is an argument to be made for that. Of course, this is, you know, European drivers. So I just don't care. I want them to pay. It's not. It's fine. But those are valid reasons. We'll see if it goes through or not. But and maybe look, it's free money for London, for the mayor, really.
Yeah. But, Nicholas, none of this story is about what Ulez is about, really. As much as the Telegraph would love it to be this is a waste of, you know, waste of time and bad air's good for you. None of that is about that. As Josh points out, a lot of this is just legal technicalities.
Well, it's a bit, excuse me, more than that, because, well, apart from the irony that Sadiq Khan was very much in favor of the EU, is very much in favor of the EU, his slogan was London is open, and now he's been skinning these poor truck drivers from all across Europe.
Oh, those poor truck drivers.
Yeah, these are poor truck drivers. Well, I mean, these are working class people.
They got trucks, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're poor now. They've had 100 fines turn up on one day.
Yeah, one of them has raked up almost half a million pounds in. He got some about 400 fines in one day, and a lot of them
sounds like a pretty bad driver to me.
Bank. But this is let's find commonality. Let's find something that basically brings us together with our fellow Europeans from the continent. A lot of local authorities, and not just in this case, use traffic fines just as a cash cow. They use the drivers as a cash cow. And the fact that they send all these fines at the same time is one of the reasons for them to want to take this to the High Court, because it gives you no chance of becoming aware of the situation and maybe try to improve your driving or your behavior. And then they have, not just that, they have used the worst possible, the most disadvantageous exchange rate to convert British pound to the euro.
Well, the PayPal exchange rate.
Probably, yeah. Or the ones you find at the airports.
But my favourite one is the fact that some fines were sent for cars that actually were Ulez compliant, but they were foreign, so they didn't show up on the system right.
Yeah.
Which
it doesn't sit very well with Sadiq Khan's.
I have to disagree with you, though, Nicholas, because I went to France 2 years ago, and I got 2 parking tickets, 2 speeding tickets.
Simultaneously.
So, yeah, so what I'm trying to say is, I don't care about any of this. I want that money back in this country.
To the Daily Mail, Nicholas, and the internet might be making children more right-wing, but there is a TV channel that'll give you a show for that these days.
Yeah.
Who? Talk TV?
Hey, that's why I didn't.
How's that going? It's nice that we got you here from Talk TV.
Well, you know, keep bidding.
Yeah, from the competition.
Keep your options going, Steve.
Good on you. How lockdown fueled surge in right-wing extremism among children. Shocking graph shows how number of under 15s monitored by Prevent for Far-Right Terrorism doubled during the pandemic. Now, I would take this with a big pinch of salt, because what does right-wing mean? What does right-wing constitute nowadays? Nowadays, we learn that if you say white lives matter or Irish lives matter, according to the events, you're ultimately or immediately classed as a right-wing extremist by the establishment, by some politicians. And this is coming from the same police force that pampers eco-terrorists, serves them coffee and biscuit. The gist of it is that because of lockdown, and finally maybe we found a negative aspect of the lockdown that we can agree with the other side. All right, these kids apparently have been exposed to too much material online, and this has fueled hate and xenophobia, right-wing extremism, and that's what the article is.
I mean, the examples they give seem to be pretty definitive.
Yeah, they're things that get you referred to.
Far-right Nazi-ish behaviour. It's dangerous.
Making bombs.
Yes, and whatnot. Yeah. The numbers here, so it's doubled, basically, but it's doubled from 68 interventions in 2020-21. Now it's gone up to 115. Or 131 this year. Obviously, these are... all it takes, of course, is one of those people to make a nail bomb, to go to a gay pub in Soho, and people will die. So, of course, it's great that the police are on top of this, and it's scary to think that something, and it makes a lot of sense logically, that something like COVID and locking down and taking years away from teenagers' lives, where they could have been out socialising, is going to have some impact.
But you're filling in a few gaps there that aren't filled in by the story. The story is saying lockdown means kids spend more time online. Spending time online is linked to having more right-wing, depending on your argument beliefs. So actually, the stories about the internet is bad for you. The lockdown meant more internet. These kids should have found the websites I found.
What did you...
I absolutely filled my time. Came out with, one arm bigger than the other, and that's all you need from a lockdown, because I was doing exercise.
What this, of course, doesn't talk about is any kind of other extremism, which I'd be very interested to see what those kind of numbers are and what kind of numbers are being presented to Prevent. And that's not necessarily coming from people being alone in their bedrooms and looking at stuff online. Some of that is coming from their family.
Still would be distracted by
Am I speaking in code here?
To The Guardian, Josh and Kanye West has said sorry for his anti-Semitic remarks. So you finally got to him in the end.
There he is.
All your tweets paid off.
Oh, come on, Kanye. All right, let's have a big old hug. It's all over. Yes, Kanye West apologises to the Jewish community, a.k.a. me, tag me into it. Hey, Josh, check this out. For his 2022 anti-Semitic remarks. Yeah, he put up a thing on Instagram. It was all in Hebrew, because he didn't want his anti-Semitic followers to know that he was apologising. He was just like, I'll just appeal to the people who actually can read Hebrew here. And he was like, I sincerely apologise to the Jewish community. Now, he has apologised before, and then he just either goes off medication or just goes crazy again, or just reveals his true self, whatever it is, and goes back to, I'm going to go to DEFCON 3 on the Jewish people and whatnot. It would be easier for me to accept this problem. And you know what? It goes here. His Instagram account basically has 18.2 million followers. There are 15 million Jews in the world. So I don't want an enemy of Kanye West and him sprouting hatred towards Jewish people, because, again, we just talked about the last story. All it takes is one or two people to take that stuff literally and for it to become a real-life hate incident, yeah? But I would take his apology better, and you would like the idea that people can grow and learn and change, if merely weeks ago he was not caught on camera talking some mental rubbish about Zionist hospitals and talking about how Hitler was great and Jesus, and putting him with the same company as Hitler. So I personally don't think, and also I don't think he could learn Hebrew that quickly.
Yeah, this is the downside of a Google Translate, isn't it?
Yes.
People like Kanye can speak any language now.
Sure. But, I mean, as long as Josh is happy and accepting the apology with such composure and dignitas, what's
Dignitas. That's another idea for it. To the Daily Mail, Nicholas, it looks like someone let Iran rent a copy of Oppenheimer.
Oh, yeah. Iran escalates production of near-weapons-grade uranium in shocking reversal, nuclear watchdog warns. So basically, Iran has smelled weakness on the part of the U.S. administration. And, of course, there are a few wars going on in the region for which Iran is also, in which actually Iran is involved. Iran is supplying Russia with drones and has not been, made accountable for that. Ukrainians have repeatedly complained about that. Iran is supporting Houthis. We will hear from them later. That's, foreshadow.
Didn't their breakaway from sticking to the deal happen during the Trump years?
Well, their grievance is that first Trump pulled out of it, and of course Biden came to power, came to the White House and said, okay, let's renegotiate, we come back, you come back. But Iranians were never happy with the speed at which Biden and the Westerners were basically coming back. He does a lot of
things slowly, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, that too. But the funny thing, if we can call it funny, is that they have a huge stockpile of 60% uranium, which has no other purpose than weapons, okay? And they keep claiming that, no, this is not for weapons. We're just doing it, for, I don't know.
It's like having some uranium around.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want it?
60% grade, yeah.
This is scary. This could be genuinely the start of World War III, in that Israel is just not going to allow Iran to have a nuclear bomb. And it is really that simple, because Iran is not somebody you can negotiate with. They are fundamentalists. They have financed, indirectly, directly, and supported people who have murdered Israeli citizens. And so this is scary. Israel has been warning for years what a problem Iran is. And they're not going to listen to America and whoever else try and hold them back. Israel will have to act just for self-defense purposes if this keeps on progressing. You would hope that Iran could see that they have a card to play in terms of more acceptance with the West and to use it to make more peace and to hopefully get some stability in the region. But I don't think it's going to go that way. And I think it's a bit scary.
It's interesting, I jokingly mentioned Oppenheimer, but at the end of the film, spoiler alerts, bomb goes off. No, not that spoiler. At the end of the film, they say, or Oppenheimer says, he fears he started the chain reaction, not the nuclear one, but the nuclear proliferation chain reaction. We're just seeing another part of it. It's worrying, isn't it?
So part two is what you're saying?
Yeah, they'll make a sequel. The show is halfway done, or there's still half to go. I'm not sure which would make you the optimist. Still to come, the King's speech was on TV, and Clare Balding says men on TV are average and overpaid. So there goes her damehood. More follow shortly.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Wake up to the headlines with headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you,
GB News.
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's news channel, and now you can support it. All you have to do is scan that QR code that's up on your screen right now, or you can go to gbnews.com/support and become a GB News member. You'll have fantastic benefits. We're also going to organise special events where you as GB News members can meet the presenters, the on-screen faces. Scan the QR code or go to gbnews.com/support. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to Headliners, to the Telegraph, Nicholas. And the King's speech ratings were down, but I bet he still gets recommissioned for next year. Nepo baby.
Yeah, money's on that. King's speech tops Christmas TV ratings, but draws less viewers than last year. So King Charles's speech, around 7.48 million people watched it. Still 100,000 people less than or fewer than last year. He talked about universal values between Christians, Jews, and Islam. I don't want to risk my own potential future OBE or whatever, but as you were suggesting earlier about Clare Balding. But what universal values? If there's any lesson we learned about Gaza and then subsequent demonstrations on our streets in London, New York, elsewhere, is that the values, the so-called universal values, are not that values. We are very different people, and that's the scary thing we learn. So I think the King, as he's called the defender of the faith, as you can see on the back of every British coin, must return to his real role, defend Christianity. And unfortunately, the King and his late mother have defended Christianity the same way that Harry Maguire has defended Manchester United's goal line. So they haven't been doing a good job. And there goes my OB.
I got that. I got the implication there. I don't know much about football, but I got it.
Yeah, the same way that Kamala Harris has defended U.S. southern borders, if people are watching us in the U.S.
But Fair Play did get more viewers than EastEnders.
Yeah.
I mean, there's your
people still are interested.
But that's your bar for the King?
They're interested in brand King, which is good. Look, it's nice to point out, and there are shared values within the three monotheistic religions of charity, community, those that exist. But yes, there are also, what we're seeing is the difference there with Gaza, with Hamas, we're seeing Islamists or jihadists or whatever, and of course that has nothing to do with Western values whatsoever, and it is, to my mind, evil and destructive. But this is about the King. Let's keep it friendly, and good for him. His numbers went down a little bit, but still, this is also a big win for the BBC. I've talked about this a few days ago, but I've got to pay my BBC licence fee in the next few days, and part of me resents it because of the news. But at the same time, 9 of the top 10 programmes were on the BBC. The other one was obviously GB News last night. No, it wasn't.
Checking the figures on that.
Really? Are you sure? Yeah.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes, but anyway, so the BBC are still doing well. I mean, the question is it the one day of the year that they kind of gear up
Yeah.
And they collect the license fee almost at gunpoint. The others have just given up trying. If you look at ITV Channel 4, they're showing psychological thrillers or horrors on Christmas Eve or Boxing Day.
Oh, I don't know. That rings true of Christmas in some families. The Daily Mail, Josh and Clare Balding says that TV is full of average, overpaid men. Hey! I perform below average and I barely get paid for this. That showed her.
Indeed, how dare she? Clare Balding, yes, says TV is full of average overpaid men as she hits out at the inequality which has left women underrepresented in the middle ranks of broadcasting jobs. So Clare Balding, supposedly she's a TV presenter, and no. Basically, her argument is that, yes, there are exceptional women and they get to the top, and yes, there are rubbish jobs and women get some of those, but what about the kind of okay-ish women? And that's the gist of it. There needs to be more. Now, we work in a business in the world of comedy, arguably where women are promoted further ahead than their ability. And I'm just talking in terms of laughter, i.e. they get gigs because... No, there are brilliantly funny women, but that's not to say that every woman you see on a comedy bill, is going to be deserving necessarily of that spot, as opposed to box ticket. Now, that's going to annoy people, but that, unfortunately, is the reality of it. Whether that occurs on television, you just need to turn on the TV. Here we have 3 mediocre women, and so it's absolutely... So, I don't know, maybe she's got a point, actually.
Yeah, the more you read it, more it makes sense. Well, the more you read it, you realise she's definitely going to do some lengths to point out that she does not consider herself to be average. Which is
she's like, I'm amazing! But also, I like men and I like working with them.
It's a strange argument, because she's changing the argument. It used to be we want equal pay for the same job. And, of course, that argument was fallacious because it's not the same job.
Is that a rude word?
Fallacious.
I want to get paid.
That's an above average term. But the thing is, that was the argument, right? We want equal pay for all BBC presenters, but if the same presenter, if 2 presenters, if 2 football players, man and woman, if 2 Hollywood actors attract different number of audiences or spectators, then it's not going to be the same job. Now she has moved on to a different argument, which says the right of being average. We just want to be average and be treated as average, while men who are average are treated as superstars. And it's really hard to gather support for that, because which woman is going to say, oh, I'm average, but I want to be treated better just like average men? No woman is going to say, I want to be average because I'm average.
To the Daily Star, Nicholas, there's a disease out there that could make humans lethargic and lazy. The question is, how do we notice?
This is the scary story of tonight, at least one of the 2. A zombie deer disease with no cure could spread to humans. We must prepare. So this is zombie deer disease, officially known as chronic wasting disease, is affecting a lot of deer, elk, moose, caribou, and reindeer in North America. I don't know the difference between all of them, but yeah, that sort of animal. I can't tell all of them apart, but the risk is spillover to humans, and some scientists are warning that if this happens, just like mad cow disease a few years back, it could be very difficult to contain, because so far it's been absolutely fatal. They're warning hunters to test the meat, because it's a hunting season, no less, to test the meat before eating it. I hope they're not selling it in Chinese wet markets. That's all I can say.
The problem is, if ever you're going to shoot a deer, it'll be the lethargic ones that just stand there staring into space. So the more, if you've shot one, just presume it's got the disease.
Yes.
Or if it's too easy, just beware.
But then the whole thing... But then, of course, it could be that the world is now ended by sort of ethical hunting, where they go out and they go, oh, I only eat... I shoot to eat, or I shoot my bow and arrow to hunt. So that could be... It could be a hippie, and then you don't know if they've got it or not. I don't know. We'll find... But, yeah, this disease is resistant up to 600 degrees centigrade. Disinfectants don't work. It's sort of terrifying.
Just lay off venison for a season, for God's sake.
Yeah, the stakes are too high.
Hey!
The Daily Star, Josh, and a story about bad Christmas gifts. I mean, what is a newborn going to do with frankincense and myrrh anyway?
Very good. Brits, you're talking about Jesus, right?
Yeah.
I've heard of him.
Yeah.
Brits share worst Christmas... He's Palestinian, right? Yeah. Anyway, Brits share worst Christmas presents they've received, from custard to trolley bags. Yeah, this is essentially just a story of bad presents, which are pretty good. But there is one that's got me a 10-piece Lynx set. Is that talking about the deodorant?
Yeah.
Okay, I could do with some of that. And there was the winner, I just get straight to that, was a Shoe Zone voucher, which I think is a bit unfair because I think Shoe Zone is sort of offers quite good deals. We have one close near us, and I've felt its loss.
You don't have to walk further to your shoe shop. It very much defeats the point.
Indeed, yeah, especially with Shoe Zone suits.
You won't even get there, yeah. Nicholas, worst gift that you've had? Can I ask? Can I go
personally?
Straight? Yeah.
I mean, I've been, thankfully, I come from the, both Iranian and Italian culture, they don't frown upon giving cash or money as gifts, as opposed to vouchers, which is like, as some comedian has pointed out, cash acceptable all over the place for an unlimited number of time or for an unlimited length of time. Now try replacing it with a voucher, which is good only for a limited time in a specific store or chain of stores.
Which you're destined to forget and be lost in the cupboard or in the drawer. I know, they're incredibly frustrating.
But also, I think there's a certain demographic. You reach an age as a bloke where all you get is bad gifts, and you're kind of grateful for them. If people didn't buy me socks every year, I'd have to buy my own socks.
Is that what you got this
I got, yeah.
Sorry.
My problem is when my wife gives me a task, like these model planes, and I love them, like the set of 2 Lancaster and the German Messerschmitt, but it's really, I've got a mortgage to pay. I'm here at midnight. When am I going to do that?
Trying to keep you busy. What's the real plan there? What is she up to?
Do you think she's trying to get you hooked on glue?
No comment.
To the Times, Nicholas, and just when Rishi had one of his 5 priorities that he wasn't failing at, bad news for inflation.
Well, this is a story I mentioned earlier briefly. Houthi pirate attacks threaten to reverse declining inflation, just what our mortgage statements needed. Basically, we have these choke points all around the world, which are very crucial for maritime transport. And that's why we can buy cheap stuff from China, because they they're manufactured pretty fast and they arrive pretty fast. And now, because of these Shia Houthi pirates, who are Yemeni forces supported by Iran, traffic especially in the Red Sea, Bab el-Mandab and Suez, these are the 2 straits and the 2 chokeholds, have become much more dangerous, and that's the risk. If goods don't arrive in time, prices go high, inflation comes back to rise just after the pandemic. But to put a positive shine on it, it's going to be good for autarky, or manufacturing our own stuff back home. How about that?
Maybe.
Yeah, when those factories open in 20 years.
Yeah.
Well, we need to open them fast.
Why don't we just go back to the days of when you order something, it's 28 days for delivery. That's how it used to be, and now somehow, if it takes more than 2 days, I'm furious.
Indeed.
You give yourself an extra month to get
we've got the Panama Canal has got a big drought going on, so this is serious. But when this threat kind of reared its head, and when they kind of got emboldened, the Houthis, then all the Western countries kind of banded together and they put their warship like we're gonna get in there, we're gonna sort them out, and then it seems to have somewhat fallen apart. So it's whether the countries think, oh, you know what, it's not worth it. We're going to have to just take the hit, or the people. We are going to have to take the hit at the pumps.
It's also going to spell disaster for pirate costume manufacturers, because so far it's been acceptable for kids and Halloween costumes to be pirates. We don't accept Nazi uniforms or terrorists. But when pirates resume activities, it's going to be too close to the bone.
I'm not sure if the Houthi pirates have parrots and.
No, it'd be a different outfit. I'd just dress as one of the blowfish.
And also there's some issues. If you went as a Somalian pirate, that might be racist.
In Canada, it's a whole different
Trudeau might get that.
One more section to go. AI's not to be trusted. Robots attack, and a man in China uses remote control anal beads, which is even riskier when you think of the first 2 stories. We'll be back shortly.
Turn mine off.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests, and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, into the final section, and if, like last night, anyone pushes me off this chair, I will lamp them. To the Telegraph, Josh. Let's call this one Shang-Chi and the Legend of the One Ring.
Very nice. So, yes, Shang-Chi... Shang-Chi...
I mean, I wouldn't do the accent. I'd keep trying the sound.
Maybe if I do it in a northern accent. What accent is that?
I don't know.
From Scotland.
An Irishman in Scotland.
I'm from Edinburgh. From Edinburgh. OK. Shang-Chi.
So Chinese chess.
Whatever. Champion loses title over allegation to use anal beads to cheat and defecated in a bathtub. It's just your normal Boxing Day story. He consumed alcohol. He got £11,000. They've taken that money back. And he has said here, of course, it was very wrong of me to have diarrhea in the bathtub, and I wish that were the first time that I've said those words.
In his defence, he said he couldn't make it to the toilet on time, but could make it.
If you're going to do it in the bathtub, it's like, yes. If you're going to have a choice, you're going to choose the toilet. So he doesn't need to say.
It's so close. How big was this hotel that there's no way I'd make the toilet this time of night, but the bathtub, I can climb in that.
Well, it's also the sprayage you've got. Anyway, sorry. What do you want to say about
your
this?
thoughts?
Well, this is a two-pronged story. It's not just about...
No, not a two-pronged anal beads.
It's all the wrong beads.
It's not, exactly. It's not just about good manners as a hotel customer, which is what officially cost him his title, but it's about cheating. And he has been accused of, and this hasn't been proven, the Chinese chess authorities has acknowledged the accusation, but they said they have no proof. But he has used anal beads equipped with transistors or transmitters.
They're accusing him of that. He hasn't done it. They haven't got proof, apart from the diarrhea.
Yeah.
Tooth.
But surprisingly, this is not the first time this happens in the world of chess. Just last year in St. Louis, Missouri, an American grandmaster, Hans Niemann, was accused of having used the same technique to cheat.
Hands-free Niemann, as we call it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I like to win. But do I like it that much?
Yeah.
I
would say it might improve your chess game, it might improve your Shang-Chi game, but ruins operation. The Guardian, Nicholas, and an expert says don't tell your secrets to AI. Then how else are they supposed to make those adult pictures of the co-workers that I have, Josh? No, it's your story, I'm just...
it's me, really. We do have a fan online who sends us some very flattering pictures. He obviously says, puts in a photo of us and then says, make them thinner with more hair.
He makes all of us look good.
Yeah, he's like, ho!
No exception.
Okay, I could get behind that guy and put some anal beads and help him with chess.
Okay, let's not turn him against us because I want those pictures to keep coming. AI expert warns against telling your secrets to chatbots such as ChatGPT. Now, in Italian we say they have discovered warm water or hot water, which means this was obvious. Just don't tell your secrets to this heartless, evil, devilish robot. This is a professor of AI at Oxford University. His name is Mike Woodridge, and essentially he's saying that anything you tell AI is going to be used against you. There's no retraction, and it just feeds into the system for AI to train and retrain itself. However, OpenAI, which is the company behind ChatGPT, has said, well, we have this option of, deactivating history. In that case, if you start the chat, they promise it won't be used to retrain ChatGPT in the future.
My favourite function is the delete history, but like the 1 hour one. Delete the last hour. Yes, please. But this is actually quite serious. He says they have no empathy. It has no sympathy. He's going down the sort of Terminator route here, sort of warning Sarah Connor. And yeah, this is the famous series. So of course AI has dominated this year. So of course the Royal Institution is going to go down that route. And but this is basically also Alexa and Amazon. That whole Siri and all that stuff, and then you're talking about something in the kitchen, and then suddenly you just get sent some adverts for anal beads.
They're always listening, aren't they? There was a list of the most commonly asked questions, and I can't believe who's the daddy is not at the top. They must filter that one out. They must do.
Wow.
To the Daily Mail, we've got Nicholas.
We've got a young child who's not conscious yet.
We've got a Google Home in the bedroom. Oh. Nicholas, there's a woman who says that she is erotically attracted to an oak tree. I don't know if the tree fancies her, but it does have wood. And if you think that's crude, the woman's surname is Semyonova. So it's like a carry-on film.
Yeah, you already took all the childish puns.
Oh, there's more. Carry on. Let's see what we get.
Okay, I'm not sure I want to go down that route, but listen, Sonia Semyonova, 45, claims she's in an erotic relationship with an oak tree after feeling a connection while lying on top of it during lonely COVID walks. So another downside of COVID, ecosexuality,
far-right kids
and ecosexuals.
Yes.
But as long as these ecosexuals keep off our roads and just hug the tree, this is the old tree hugging.
Oh, you see,
gone a bit badly.
Do you think that's why they were chaining themselves to trees? It's like they're actually getting off on it.
Well, it starts with hugging, and the next thing you know, you're like a squirrel. You're just going,
mate, you're barking.
I think we're out of time, which is a shame, because I'm sure there could have been at least another 3 puns about something to do with trees that's a bit rude. The show is nearly over. Let's take another quick look at the front pages. For the Daily Mail, dozens of under-5s referred to NHS gender service. The Guardian, ex-GCHQ chief warns ministers over government by WhatsApp. The Times, Tories to woo first-time buyers. The Telegraph goes with number 10 plans to end IHT ahead of election. The Express, end scandal of rip-off hospital parking charges. They only go with that story every year. And finally, the Daily Star, battered Britain, 5 New Year storms. That's all we've got time for. Thank you to my guests. We are back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with some other people doing this job. If you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Till the next time, have a good one.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Greg Dewhurst and welcome to your latest GB News weather. We've got Storm Gerrit on the way. After what has been a fairly calm Boxing Day, it does turn very unsettled. We're expecting some travel disruption over the next 24 hours. Storm Gerrit is going to move in, Tai Sabahs indicating very strong winds across the country, some heavy rain and blizzards across Scotland as well. This evening time, dry across the northeast of the UK, but further south and west, rain quickly piling in, turning heavy as we move into the early hours. The wind's picking up too, with gales around the coast. It's generally mild tonight as the temperatures rise and the cloud and the rain moves in, some icy stretches across northern Scotland. As the rain bumps into the colder air across the higher ground of Scotland, we will see this turn to snow, and with strengthening winds we could see some blizzards developing. 60-70 mile an hour gusts are possible, and the rain heavy across much of the UK, leading to spray on the roads and some local flooding. Very mild, temperatures 12-13 Celsius, but wind gusts 40-50 miles an hour, 60-70 around the coast. It will feel cooler than this. Thursday, it remains unsettled. Further blustery showers across the UK, some of these heavy at times. Gusty winds for all. Some brighter spells at times in between those showers moving through. And temperatures generally around, if not a little above average for the time of year. And it stays unsettled right through into the weekend.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. This Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show, every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests, and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
This
is Farage at Live, Christmas special, live from Birmingham. Please welcome your host, Nigel, Farage.
Everybody, I'm here live in Birmingham with an audience. They're wildly enthusiastic. We're going to have a great show. We'll talk local Birmingham politics. We're going to give out some Christmas prizes to people who've done great work in the community. And we're going to have local lad, Roy Wood, a legendary figure whose record 50 years ago, I wish it could be Christmas every day, and he'll be on that stage with his band playing it later. So all of that comes after the news.
Good evening, this is the latest from the GB Newsroom. Storm Gerrit set to batter Britain overnight, bringing strong wind, rain and snow. The Met Office has issued several yellow weather warnings from midnight into the early hours on Thursday. Gusts between 50 to 70 miles per hour will sweep across the country, with high ground and exposed coast being hit the hardest. Most of England and Wales will see torrential rain, whereas the peaks of Scotland and the Northern Isles are likely to see some snow. A man has been arrested on suspicion of murder following a fatal stabbing in Croydon. 27-year-old Michael Patrick Afonso Peixoto died after being attacked and stabbed by a group of men in Thornton Heath on Tuesday, the 19th of December. The investigation is ongoing and a 22-year-old remains in custody. The Met Police are appealing for anyone with information to come forward. 4 people have been held in a murder probe after a man was stabbed in East London today. The Met Police say officers were called to reports of a stabbing on Cranwood Street in Hackney. A 49-year-old man was found with stab wounds and later died from his injuries. 2 men, aged 49 and 42, and 2 women, aged 35 and 44, have been arrested on suspicion of murder and remain in police custody. And Labour has been warned to stay away from traditional Boxing Day fox hunt parades ahead of the next general election. Countryside campaigners have told the party to end what they call its running attack on rural communities. They say Sir Keir Starmer risks igniting a toxic culture war if his party repeats past attacks on rural life. Fox hunting was banned in England and Wales in 2004. However, Labour has vowed to crack down on all hunts. TV, online and DAB plus radio. This is GB News. Now back to Farage.
Well, good evening. I'm here in Birmingham. We've got a very big audience and they're very enthusiastic. And this is my last GB News show of the year. I'm going to be back on New Year's Day, and it's a time, in many ways, for us all to reflect on the year that's gone by. I have to say, personally, I've had a pretty cracking year. I've just come back from a little trip to Australia, and this audience have seen a lot of me. In fact, the country has seen an awful lot of me. For some reason, ITV thought my naked showering was something that should be shared with the nation, but I thoroughly, oh, well, there are some fans of it here. I have to say, doing The Jungle was a really good thing to do. It was a chance to reach out to a younger audience and a chance for me as a person to try and conquer my fears. If you'd said to me a couple of months ago that I would lie down in a darkened box 6 feet under the ground, where many in the European Parliament had always wanted to put me, and then to cover me with 20 snakes, I wouldn't have believed it. But I learned 1 or 2 tricks of the mind. I've learned, actually, all of us can overcome any fears that we have. It's just about getting your mind in the right place. So The Jungle was a really big moment for me. I was thrilled to reach the final, and 23 nights in the jungle. You think about it, no tea, no coffee, no salt, no sugar, no pepper, no alcohol. And I've come back thinner and fitter than I've been ever since I was at school. So that has been a really good thing for me to do this year. And of course, the middle of the year was dominated by the debanking scandal. There I was for 43 years, a loyal customer of the NatWest Group, banking with Coutts, one of their wholly owned subsidiaries, and for no reason I could find at all, I finished up being told that all my accounts would be closed. And I can't tell you how terrifying it is to think you're going to be debanked. I went out onto the high street, I met many of the big clearers, many of the private banks. 10 other banks refused to do my business. It just shows you the extent to which the whole woke culture has overtaken the big corporates in our country and across the Western world. Well, of course, I could have just gone away quietly. Not kicked up a fuss. But I thought, no, I'm going to take the so-and-sos on. And they got rid of me because they didn't like the views that I stood for. Legal, democratic, perfectly reasonable views, but I was to be debanked because of that. So I fought them, and we managed to get rid of the CEO of Coutts and the CEO of NatWest, Dame Alison Rose, who said I didn't have enough money to have a bank account at Coutts. If she'd known I was going in the jungle, she might have changed her mind. And ever since the day it launched, I've loved being part of GB News. It seemed to me for years the establishment needed to be challenged, and a real highlight earlier this year was winning that Trick Award as News Presenter of the Year. And I did that because people like you voted for me, supported me, and it was so great to go up on the stage and be booed by the rest of the industry. Mind you, I did tell them probably they'd all lose their jobs, so perhaps it's not a great surprise. They got terribly upset. Another highlight was the Tory conference. I hadn't been to one for 30 years. And even though I was there as a GB News presenter, I was sort of treated like the prodigal son returning. So it's been a really great 2023. Now, whether Rishi Sunak would say that 2023 had been a phenomenal year, I'm not too sure. Of course, we've had the famous 5 pledges. One of them he is succeeding with, and that is, of course, that inflation is rapidly coming down. But given the contraction of money supply, I genuinely worry that we could be in recession in 2 or 3 months' time. And as for Stop the Boats, we're being told to celebrate that the numbers are down. Only 30,000 young men have crossed the English Channel this year. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be celebrating. As I say, I don't think he's had quite such a good year. I'm not sure the Conservative Party have had quite such a good year. I wonder whether Gary Sambrook, Conservative Member of Parliament for Birmingham Northfield, you've been in post since 2019, a Conservative in a built-up part of Birmingham has not been a very common thing over the last 20 or 30 years, and welcome this
Thank you very much
to the
for having
programme.
me.
Very good to have you here. Now, you got in 2019, you were part of that red wall shock, a majority of 80, and you, of course, Gary, sound man, Brexiteer all the way through, and you got elected on this ticket of getting Brexit done. Be honest with me, how disappointed do you feel?
I don't feel disappointed at all. And, you know, today I visited a school in my constituency, Turfs Green Boys School, a challenging school which has been in special measures. And I remember spending at least the first 2 years of my time in Parliament with the Left and Labour Party and the SNP moaning about Brexit, etc., and things like the Erasmus scheme and how it was going to deny generations of children to come opportunities. Well, I'm afraid Erasmus was basically for middle-class kids with parents who have got sharp elbows. Today, I heard about how dozens of children from a working class community in Birmingham are basically going around the world, finding new experiences, having those opportunities to them and learning new skills on the back of Brexit. And I think that's a very proud thing that we can all be very proud of, and we are delivering it. Everyone always had different visions of what Brexit would be. It wasn't necessarily a one-size-fits-all, but I think we have delivered it, and I think it's also making sure that we're delivering for people on the promises that they wanted to see from Brexit.
Well, Gary, one of the promises was to control our borders. And we have had illegal immigration and indeed legal immigration running at numbers that nobody in this room would have believed even possible just a few years ago. And, you know, you yourself were one of the early MPs saying that Boris had let the country down. I mean, an 80-seat majority, so much good change could have been put in place. Be honest, it's been squandered a bit.
I don't think it has. If you look at the events which have happened over the last couple of years, as politicians always say, events, dear boy, we had some fairly serious curveballs. 3 months into this job, we shut the country down because of COVID.
I know.
Right, that was a big
and you
thing.
shut it down again and again and again.
I didn't vote for all the measures, I hasten to add, because I thought sometimes it went slightly beyond what was necessary. And we'll see from the COVID inquiry whether that was handled rightly or wrongly.
A COVID inquiry that we won't get the results of until about 2027.
Well, yeah, and also, unfortunately, I think it's focusing primarily on personalities rather than on policy. I want the inquiry to tell me whether we made the right decisions, not about the who said, etc.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that. Gary, you know, it's going to be a tough job for you. There's an election next year. You know it's going to be a tough job for you. Are the problems that Birmingham local council has been undergoing maybe one thing that could help you?
Well, I mean, it's an absolute disgrace what we've seen happen at Birmingham City Council. For months now, we've known that the City Council is bankrupt. And Labour councillors have not been making the tough decisions, but they've needed to and been kicking the can down the road. £14 million every month is added onto the debt in Birmingham when they don't make a decision on equal pay. And here we are in December, 4 months after the announcement was made, and we're still not a step closer to making that decision. It's an
Could that
disgrace.
issue save Gary Sandbrook his seat?
Well, I don't know. There's something I'm going to campaign on, but also I want to talk about positive things that I've been doing. If you come down to my patch and go to Longbridge, where MG Rovers stood for nearly 100 years, etc., that is a place which is going through massive transformation. The money I've been able to get there, for we're going to get 5,000 jobs on Westworks, and the proudest thing I always look at, because I live around the corner from there, and when I go past it and I walk the dog and I see a new manufacturing unit on that site, bringing manufacturing jobs back to the old MG Rovers site for the first time since 2005. I'm deeply proud of that.
If you've got good local stuff going on, all I can say is you're going to need it in that general election. But for now, very, very
put a cracker.
Happy. And you won! Happy Christmas! Excellent. In a moment, I'm going to be giving out some awards to people in the local community who've done great work. For now, it's thanks to Gary, thanks to the crowd. Back with you in a couple of minutes.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Wake up to the headlines with headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show.
Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else.
We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride.
Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse.
It's news, but it's this close to entertainment.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live.